Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्त वृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्त वृंद। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपीकांत राधाकांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। बोलो श्री राधे गोलोकानंद भगवान की जय।
जय।
श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। हरे कृष्णा जय। हरे कृष्णा सचिन।
Hare Krishna everybody.
Hare Krishna everyone.
Alright, so हम लोग Thursday we were reading श्लोक 34 to 36. Yeah, chapter 32 and of Canto 3. Canto 3 में we have one more chapter after this, like chapter 33, right? And then we'll be completing Canto 3. तो इसमें जैसे लास्ट वीक हम लोग पढ़ रहे थे, so Kapil Muni explaining characteristics of a person who is totally in the materialistic world, yeah, totally attached to the material activity. And then also we're reading like a devotional service, how important it is, like the topmost bhakti is the purest thing, is the greatest thing, right, a human being can achieve. And how he can go back to Godhead with the devotional service, how the bhakti yoga is the best, is what Kapil Muni has been explaining. Yeah, so last में जैसा हम लोग पढ़ रहे थे, you know, and how it can be achieved, right? So that's what was being described, that by performing fruitive activities and sacrifices, by distributing charity, by performing austerities, by studying various literatures, and by conducting philosophical research, by controlling the mind, by subduing the senses, by accepting the renounced order of life, by performing the prescribed duties of one's social order, by performing the different divisions of yoga practice, and by performing devotional service, by exhibiting the process of devotional service containing the symptoms of both attachment and detachment, by understanding the science of self-realization, and by developing a strong sense of detachment, one who is expert in understanding the different processes of self-realization realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is represented in the material world as well as in the transcendence. Yeah. So even though being in material world, what Kapil Muni is saying, who is none other than Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, right, is that even though in the material world, it's possible to develop the spiritual consciousness or the Krishna consciousness, and then you can actually go back to the spiritual world. Yeah. And yeah. Yeah, it says here also, one has to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita. After many, many births, one approaches the Supreme Person, Krishna, and surrenders unto him, knowing that he is everything. So you want to gain this knowledge, is like after so many births. Yeah. And then it says, similarly, if one fully understands the real position of his life, adopts devotional service, and realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah. So again and again, very nicely mentioned. 37 से शुरू करते हैं अनिल जी.
जी प्रावोचम भक्ति योगस्य स्वरूपम ते चतुर्विधम कालस्य चाव्यक्त गतेर्यो अंतर्धावति जंतुषु. My dear mother, I have explained to you the process of devotional service and its identity in 4 different social divisions. I have explained to you as well how eternal time is chasing the living entities, although it is imperceptible to them.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so right as Kapil Muni is saying, my dear mother, his mother Dehuti, yeah, explain the Bhakti Yogasya and what is the Swarup of that, yeah, Te Chaturvidam, which is 3 gunas and the transcendence, yeah, and the important part is how Kal is changing everyone, the time, yeah, the time factor as we know is changing the living entities because everyone has a limited amount of time in different forms. Yeah, and nice purport. Let's read this, Sachin.
The process of Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, is a main river flowing down towards the sea of the Absolute Truth, and all other processes mentioned are just like tributaries. Lord Kapila is summarizing the importance of process of devotional service. Bhakti Yoga, as described before, is divided into 4 divisions, 3 in the material modes of nature and 1 in transcendence, which is untinged by the modes of material nature. Devotional service mixed with modes of material nature is a means of material existence, whereas devotional service without desires for fruitive result and without attempts for empirical philosophical research is pure, transcendental devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Huh? Ajay?
जीवस्य संसृति बहिर्विद्या कर्म निर्मिता या स्वंगम प्रविशन्नात्मा न वेद gatimatmanam. There are varieties of material existence for the living entity according to the work he performs in ignorance or forgetfulness of his real identity. My dear mother, if anyone enters into that forgetfulness, he is unable to understand where his movements will end. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So it says varieties of material existence for the living entity. Yeah. And what is it based on? The work he performs in ignorance or forgetfulness of his real identity, which means once we get conditioned, the material consciousness, and then all the karmas we are doing, based on that, yeah, we get different material existence. And then, of course, once we enter into this forgetfulness, he is unable to understand where his movements will end. Like this cycle of birth and death continues, right? We just don't understand that. Is what is being mentioned here again. So, yeah, let's read this. Anilji?
Yeah. Once one enters into the continuation of material existence, it is very difficult to get out. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes himself or sends his bona fide representative, and he leaves behind scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, so that the living entities hovering in the darkness of nescience may take advantage of the instructions, the saintly persons and the spiritual masters, and thus be freed. Unless the living entity receives the mercy of the saintly persons, the spiritual master or Krishna, it is not possible for him to get out of the darkness of material existence by his own endeavor. It is not possible. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So few important parts mentioned here is like, let's say if we are not reading Srimad Bhagavatam, right? If we don't understand what a living entity is, what are those different cycles of birth and death, right? And how can we go back to Godhead? And that actually it exists, right? Even if we don't even understand that there is a spiritual world which exists, right? Or there is a soul, right? Or if we don't understand that there is a constant birth and death cycle, then how are we even going to get there, right? We will still continue in this cycle without even realizing, right? And keep suffering. So what it's saying is that that's why you see all the various avatars of Godhead himself comes, yeah? And then, those scriptures are Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are given for the living entities like us. And then if we get the mercy, if we do the devotional service, only then it's possible to get out of the darkness of material existence. Yeah, if we don't even know, then how are we going to get out of it? So, Sachin?
नैते तत् खल योत्पदी शेन्न विनीताय करहिचित् न स्तब्धाय न भिन्नाय नैव धर्म भजाय च. Lord Kapila continued, this instruction is not meant for the envious, for the agnostic, or for persons who are unclean in their behavior, nor is it for hypocrites or for persons who are proud of material positions. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So this instruction, Srimad Bhagavatam instruction, the people who are envious, yeah, and hypocrites who are totally attached to the material positions, they are not even going to understand this, right? Nalolupayopadhishena guharud chetuse na bhaktaya cha me jatu namat bhakta dvishamapi. So it's not to be instructed to persons who are too greedy and too attached to family life, nor to persons who are non-devotees and who are envious of the devotees and of the personality of Godhead. So people who are na bhaktai, there is no point, they are not going to understand this, is what Kapil Muni is mentioning. Anilji?
जी श्रद्धानाय भक्ताय विनीतायान सूयवे भूतेषु कृतमैत्राय शुश्रूषवीर्ताय च. Instructions should be given to the faithful devotee who is respectful to the spiritual master, non-envious, friendly to all kinds of living entities, and eager to render service with faith and sincerity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So those devotees, yeah, Shraddhanaya, Bhaktaya, yeah, Vinitaya, yeah, and Ansuyave, which is non-envious, yeah, and who is Bhuteshu is all entities, Krit Metraya, like he is friend to all the entities, yeah, and then with faith and sincerity, he can render devotional service. So those are the devotees who actually can go back to Godhead. Ajay?
Bahirjat viragaya shanti chittaya diyatam nirmatsaraya shuchaya yasyayaham priyasam priya. The instructions should be imparted by the spiritual master to persons who have taken the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be more dear than anything, who are not envious of anyone, who are perfectly cleansed, and who have developed detachment for that which is outside the previous of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. The instruction given to the who have taken Supreme Personality of Godhead to be more dear than anything. Priya Sam Priya hai. Yeah. So I think there are some. This is a huge purport, actually, pretty good purport. So let's read this, Sachin.
In the beginning, no one can be elevated to the highest stage of devotional service. Here, bhakta means one who does not hesitate to accept the reformatory process of becoming a bhakta. In order to become a devotee of the Lord, one has to accept a spiritual master and inquire from him about how to progress in devotional service. To serve a devotee, to chant the holy name according to a certain counting method, to worship the deity, to hear Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita from a realized person, and to live in sacred place where devotional service is not disturbed are the first out of 64 devotional activities for making progress in devotional service. One who has accepted these 5 activities is called a devotee. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So the chief 5 activities, there are 64 activities is what is being mentioned. Yeah. There are 64 devotional activities for making progress in devotional service. But what are the 5 chief activities given here are is to serve a devotee, to chant the holy name, yeah, according to a counting method, to worship the deity, yeah, to hear Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, and to live in a sacred place where devotional service is not disturbed. Like so, those are the chief 5 devotional activities out of 64. Yeah. And it says here the word Suchiye means one who is cleansed both externally and internally. To become actually cleansed externally and internally, one should chant the holy name of the Lord Hare Krishna or Vishnu constantly. Right? So how do we really clean ourselves, or how the soul gets purified, right? And that's the impact of the holy name of Lord Hare Krishna. Yeah, that's why we chant this Maha Mantra, right? So the conscious gets cleaned or purified, and then the devotional service gets awakened. So that's what is being mentioned here. Also, it says in these 2 verses, the qualities of a devotee are fully explained. One who has actually developed all the qualities listed in these verses is already elevated to the post of a devotee. If one has not developed all these qualities, he still has to fulfill these conditions in order to become a perfect devotee. Yeah. But once somebody becomes a perfect devotee, that means, he has achieved the highest perfection in life, right? As what we have been reading. And the chief 5 activities is like chanting, reading Srimad Bhagavatam are 2 out of those, right? And then, doing the deity darshan is another one, part of the devotional service. Sachin?
Priya idam shrunuya dhammam shraddhaya purushah sakrit yo vibhidhatte machita chittah sa yoti padvim chame. Anyone who once meditates upon me with faith and affection, who hears and chants about me, surely goes back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So this is the most important thing. Like there is a possibility that one can go back to Godhead. Yeah. How? One who once meditates upon me, yeah, with faith and affection, says here, Shraddhya Purusha Sakrita. Yeah. And one who hears and chants about me surely goes back home, back to Godhead. Yeah. And and that's it. So this ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport of the 3rd canto, 32nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Entanglement in Fruitive Activities. So Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
So this is the last chapter of 3rd canto. So we'll be completing 3rd book. So that's really, nice. Slowly we are getting there. And we still have 7 minutes, so I think we can continue with the next chapter, right? And next chapter is about the activities of Kapil Muni himself. So let's read that. Ajay?
मैत्रेय उवाच एवं निशम्य कपिलस्य वचो जनित्री सा कर्दमस्य दतिया किल देवहूति विसस्त्र मोहपटला तमभि प्रणम्य तुष्टाव तत्व विषयांकित सिद्धि भूमिम. Sri Maitreya said, thus Devhuti, the mother of Lord Kapil and wife of Kardam Muni, became freed from all ignorance concerning devotional service and transcendental knowledge. She offered her obeisance unto the Lord, the author of the basic principles of Sankhya system of philosophy, which is the background of liberation, and she satisfied him with the following verses of prayer. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So Sri Maitreya said, and who is Maitreya Muni? What's going on there? Whom is he saying to? Remember? Like Maitreya Muni is at the Ganga Tat, right? And whom he is speaking to?
Vidur, right?
Hmm?
Vidur.
Vidur, right? Mahatma
Yes,
Vidur. Yeah. Like Mahatma Vidur, when he went out, he first met Uddhavji, yeah, if you remember, and he wanted Uddhavji to give him transcendental knowledge, right? But Uddhavji was instructed by Lord Krishna himself to go to Kedarnath and do tapasya. So Uddhavji told Mahatma Vidur is to go to Ganga Tat. They met at Yamuna Nadi, and Ganga Tat par jaane ko kaha, and he said ki Ganga Tat par Maitreya Muni is waiting for you. Yeah, so Mahatma Vidur goes to Ganga Tat, meets Maitreya Muni, and then if you remember, Mahatma Vidur is the one who is asking all these questions to Maitreya Muni, and Maitreya Muni is responding to Mahatma Vidur. Yeah, so this is being told by Maitreya Muni to Mahatma Vidur, and then of course, these last few chapters were about Kapil Muni. So that's how Maitreya Muni is explaining that. So, what happened was Devhuti, who is, of course, we know, mother of Lord Kapil and wife of Kardam Muni, became freed from all ignorance concerning devotional service and transcendental knowledge. Yeah, and then she offered prayers to Kapil Muni, and that's what we are going to read in the upcoming verses. So let's read this, Sachin.
The system of philosophy enunciated by Lord Kapila before his mother is the background for situation on the spiritual platform. The specific significance of this system of philosophy is stated herein as Siddhi Bhumi. It is a background of salvation. People who are suffering in this material world because they are conditioned by material energy can easily get freed from the clutches of matter by understanding the Sankhya philosophy enunciated by Lord Kapila. By this system of philosophy, one can immediately become free even though one is situated in this material world. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Anilji. Anilji.
That stage is called Jatuvan Mukti. This means that one is liberated even though one stays with his material body. One stays with his material body. That happened for Devhuti, the mother of Lord Kapil, and she therefore satisfied the Lord by offering her prayers. Anyone who understands the basic principle of Sankhya philosophy is elevated in devotional service and becomes fully Krishna conscious or liberated even within this material world. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. Liberated even within this material world. So that's a high possibility. Yeah. And then, so Dehuti basically does the prayers to Kapil Muni. That's what we are going to read. Yeah. So, Dehutiru Acha Athapyajo Antah Salileshayanam Bhutendriyatatmatmayam Vapuste Guna Pravaham Sadashesha Bijam Dadyo Shwayam Yajjatarapajayatah. So Dehuti said, Brahma is said to be unborn because he takes birth from the lotus flower which grows from your abdomen, while you lie in the ocean at the bottom of the universe. But even Brahma simply meditated upon you, whose body is the source of unlimited universes. So even Lord Brahma, who has emanated all the universes, was meditating upon Lord Shri Vishnu. And Kapil Muni is avatar of none other than Lord Vishnu. So that's how Mother Dehuti starts praying. So we'll continue doing the prayers. Yeah, see you tomorrow at 10. We have 1 minute. So we'll hear the kirtan and then we will meet again tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Jai Radha Girivardhari Pitambara Jagat Janamana Mohe Pitambara Jagat Janamana Mohe Neela Udane Vane Unake Sohe Neela Udane Vane Unake Sohe Jai Radha Girivardhari Jai Radha Girivardhari Aruna Charana Mane Manjira Boye Aruna Charana Mane Manjira Boye Sri Krishna Dase Tahi Ma